Dude, today we have the pleasure of talking to our good buddy Byron Elliott.
Byron Elliott. Hey man, every time we talk to Byron, I'm always shocked at the wisdom he drops and the big game he brings, especially because he's an army guy. It's shocking.
Yeah. No, man, Byron's awesome, man. He's a successful attorney, real estate investor, and a man who invests a ton of time into others. And honestly, man, like we're blessed to be partners with him and his wife Katie on a number of real estate deals. And today's show, he schools us up on creative ways to structure deals, specifically using historic tax credits to turn investments into like amazing investments.
Yeah, so if you're a real estate investor or you desire to be one, this is a must listen, one that will give you creative options, and reach out to Byron. Don't hesitate. He will, wherever you are in the country, he will help you with your investments and find creative ways to make the deal happen. So go give it a listen now.
Go now.
You're listening to Filling the Storehouse podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Stuart, and we want to walk with you on the journey to living the abundant life through faith, family, and freedom. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours. Together, achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to intentionally fill our storehouse.
What up, dudes?
What up, what up, what up, boys?
Stu, David, how we doing, buddies?
Good, man. Good to see you
Doing
again. Byron is a second time show on Filling the Storehouse podcast. Still doesn't have the record, but we're going to see if he can join us again in the near future to tie it. So a lot of times we talk about dad fails. I always was just in the restroom and I was thinking about, I was washing my hands, right? And I looked in the mirror and I noticed that like I didn't shave like half of like my upper lip here. You guys ever have like a man fail when you're shaving and you like miss a whole section and you just look like a buffoon?
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm glad the story went to where it went.
Yeah.
Because when you started it, I was like, I don't even
Like
know where this
ruh-roh.
is going. I thought we might have to, re-record. Yeah, my beard comes in so thick
Yeah, sure.
that that it's oftentimes something, I miss a spot. It's very obvious because how thick my beard is.
Yeah.
So I could totally relate with you.
Once I shaved my eyebrows by accident.
How'd you do that?
How do you shave your
I
eyebrows?
wasn't into girls yet, so it wasn't, the consequences weren't too much. But yeah, so when I was little, the ladies at the grocery market would say something about my long eyelashes and how pretty they were. And so when I started to kind of mature a little bit, I didn't like that. But for some reason, I couldn't tell the difference between eyelashes and eyebrows. So I went home and I shaved my eyebrows off. It was pretty amazing.
Well, I thought maybe you were going to say that you intentionally shorten the eyebrows because you're so aware of how pretty the eyelashes when you're trying to bring more attention to them, which I'm sure in a roundabout way was what you did. So
they do say that if you have bushy eyebrows, it's a sign of wisdom. And so
That's right.
I'm just going to leave that right there for you guys.
Hey, I'm there with you, brother. I'm there with you.
Yeah, super wise.
Yeah.
I sure wish my eyebrows were really
speaking
bushy.
speaking about wisdom, let's talk this real estate strategy that Byron you've come up with, and then we are fortunate enough to be a part of with you. But you've been kind of doing this strategy, working on historic properties, primarily here in Colorado, and we're gonna dive into the strategy, the tactics behind it, because I think it's super interesting and could be super lucrative. But for those that didn't listen to the first episode that you were on with us, just give the audience a little background. Who you are, where you came from, what you do, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. So I'm a 24-year Army veteran. I retired in 2019. Education-wise, background in business. My wife and I, Katie, we own a small law firm here in Castle Rock, so 20 miles south of Denver, specializing primarily in real estate syndications. And so 90% of our work is helping investors raise private equity, purchase a real estate asset through pooling of funds. And so we really, really enjoy doing that. And then a few years back realized that, you know what, we can do this as well. We just need to find kind of the right asset class. We don't want to compete with, you know, the bigger players and the bigger markets and certain asset classes. So we had to find something a little bit novel and unique where we weren't in a knife fight trying to fight over a property, right? So um, this particular model of investing in real estate, it only works in certain places. So when you talk about historic properties, if you are looking to invest in kind of a downtown Denver area, that gives people anxiety because it's a different model of historic preservation. So in that kind of setting, you have to be really particular about what people in Denver and the adjacent communities, when you're going to renovate, you have to be very particular about what you can and can't do in those little districts. So I'm talking about a little bit different approach to historic buildings. And so for us, we have this kind of little honey hole where we invest. It's about 45 minutes southwest of Colorado Springs. And so typical little downtown American areas, you've got a main street that has brick buildings, 2-3 stories. They've been around, you know, since the 1900s or so. And this little area down here, a lot of it was mining towns. So you have these, you know, mining towns 4 or 5 miles from each other, and there's a handful of them. And so the first time we actually looked at a property, it was the property next door to one little Airbnb we had purchased. It was a 2-story duplex Airbnb, brick building, downtown Florence is the town. And the building next door is a 2-story multi-use, where on the first floor you have 2 commercial tenants. One is the Florence Brewing Company, and then on the second floor you have a hotel that had been vacant since at least 1966. But the building had been around since the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so I had watched this property over a number of months because the second floor was boarded up, right? But it's this magnificent brick building. And so the owner at the time, really nice guy, member of the Colorado National Guard, who had grown up in Florence, he had intended to renovate the building. But at the end of the day, just on the surface, the renovation costs for these buildings can be pretty extensive, right? It's kind of like you peel the layer of the onion back and you find something new each time you do that. That's an issue or something that needs to be resolved. And so I think over time, I'd asked him, one, let's co-invest on getting your space renovated so that we can do something with this and put it back to its best use. But I think he just kind of ran out of schlitz in terms of the monies. So he had to come up with something very unique. At the end of the day, he ended up moving on the other side of the state, didn't want to deal with it anymore. So we were able to purchase the asset from it. And so high level, I'll talk about kind of high level how these work, and then I'll go through kind of a case by case and give an example of how the economics break down. So high level, if you have a building, it's either a building or a district that's on the National Historic Registry, and it's pretty easy to find out. You literally just Google National Historic Registry, and they have a searchable database there, and you can search by town typically, and then you can drill down a little bit more. In some of these downtown areas, it will actually have a district that says like the downtown Florence district, and they'll give you boundaries that say, okay, from, you know, 1st Street to 7th Street and from Smith to Macon. And in some cases, they'll even show you what the little boundary is. And as long as your building is listed on there as what they call a contributing property, then it qualifies. So that would be a historic property. In other instances, they'll actually have the property address and the name of the building on this historic registry. So those are kind of the 2 ways to look around. So if you're, you know, driving around in these cool little towns and you see something that's boarded up, I mean, it's very easy to get on there and just see, is this a contributing property that would qualify for this program?
So, hey, JB, real quick question, just for context. This is a federal strategy, or this is state specific?
Yep. So it's both. However, some states will provide a tax credit. So this is the benefit of this, right? If it qualifies, and if both the state and the federal government participate in the program, and if you develop your scope of work and your contractor puts the kind of finishes and the look and feel that preserves the historic character of the building, then you qualify. In Colorado, for example, Colorado has a 35% tax credit. So that's 35% of your overall renovation budget. And then the federal government has a 20%. And so, it's a useful tax strategy for one, if you have, some gains that you need to offset or some income that you need to offset. Tax credits are beautiful. It's a one for one, right? The other beautiful thing is there's actually a market for these credits. And so if you're not interested in just enjoying the tax credit and reducing your taxable income, you can actually go sell these and recoup your capital, 55% of your overall project cost. And then you sell those for anywhere between 65 cents to 90 cents on the dollar to a broker who will actually find an investor who needs that to offset their taxable income otherwise. And so the program is designed specifically to encourage exactly what we're doing, is find buildings where other people don't know how to use the programs. Other people don't have the bridge money to actually do the construction project, because at the end of the day, you have to actually finish the project first, then you recoup tax credits. And so you have to get kind of creative on how you're going to finance a particular deal. And I'll talk through some of mine here to give some examples. There are some states that don't have the state matching credit. And so you just want to make real sure that before you dive into something like this, that's a huge benefit. It's 35% of that tax credit back is just huge.
And another, I guess from the strategy standpoint, do you recommend that people look to incorporate this strategy at a distance, or do you think this should be something that is in your local area that you're really maximizing the potential as a cautionary tale?
Yeah, it really depends on your team, right? And so, for example, you guys know our architect, Jonathan Sims, is very, very good at this. He's got a great relationship with the state rep and the federal rep. He knows exactly what they're looking for. Very, very experienced with these kind of projects. Like, I would feel comfortable doing something out of state as long as I have Jonathan on my team, right? I know we have another fellow in the war room, Zach Westerfield, does similar stuff, and he's got a good relationship with the local state rep. And so you've got to get tethered with the stakeholders to make sure it's as streamlined as possible, because as you know, anytime you're dealing with a government entity and you're waiting for approval from their bearded council, especially like in a COVID environment, it takes 3 times longer than you would expect. So you got to have a really tight team and a really good plan.
I would maybe add also that, you kind of hit on a little bit, but it might not be like Denver where you're doing this, or Dallas or Washington D.C., like one of these like huge metros, right? Like, I think it's going to be probably a little bit better to go to these tertiary markets, these smaller towns where you can actually go have a seat at the table with the local government and the city representatives and stuff like that, where you're really on a face-to-face level, instead of the huge bureaucratic board of Dallas, Texas, or something like that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And most of the municipality and their staff that we deal with are actually super supportive, because we're literally taking buildings that are vacant otherwise. So we fix it up, no more boarded windows. We're putting residential inventory back on the market. We're increasing their tax base. We're helping them revitalize their downtown areas. So for the most part, people have been very, very supportive, and they'll help us kind of navigate the code. And, they'll take into account this is a historic building. And so, a new 2021 code may not work with a historic building. So they give us an opportunity to get creative with like fire suppression, fire ratings, and whatever the fire department needs to be comfortable given the limitations of the building itself. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's having a good relationship with the people in the municipality.
All right, so you've kind of started to create relationships. You've found a local market. You've searched for buildings on the historic registry. What give us again, kind of you're hitting that 30,000 foot view. What does that look like?
So as you're kind of looking at these potential properties, there's searching on the database, and then there's really 3 other parts to making the project work. One is you have to do what's called a Part 1 NPS application. So our architect does this for us. Basically, it's a threshold question of, is this a property that's on the National Historic Registry, and is it contributing, right? So that's Part 1. That usually takes a week or two for the NPS to figure out. And then you go into what your scope of work is. And so, again, our architect does this for us. He goes out, he takes pictures of the building in its current state. And then he talks about the historical significance of the building. And then what are we going to do in the scope of work to, both renovate the building and put it back into the inventory, but also keep the historic look and feel, right? Especially from the outside in, looking at the facade of the building, but also in some cases, as you're entering the building, the NPS wants you to have the same kind of look and feel as the property looked like, back at its historic use. So that's how you kind of figure out whether your program's going to work or not. You obviously have to run a financial model, and that's significant because some of these buildings, it's worth the effort to go through all of these additional hurdles. Some buildings not. So I find just high level, it's buildings that at least half of the building has to be renovated, right? It's got to be a significant overhaul. So you'll see that in the examples that I'm going to give. The 3 buildings were at least partially renovated and put into use, and we're renovating the other half.
Yeah, and JB, so if someone goes to they're looking at the registry and they're finding buildings, and the building doesn't happen to be on the registry, is the game over? The project is done, or are there ways to get it added and creative ways to ensure the success there?
Yeah, you can. We haven't tried that yet. Part of that, again, is just kind of mitigating risk on the upfront costs. I mean, having like my architect do that, for example, that could be $6,000 to $10,000 taking a building and trying to make it contribute. So I do have a building that's, downtown Canyon City. It's in the district, but it's a non-contributing building because the previous owners put stucco on the outside, right? So I wrestled with this too. It's like, okay, well, if I want to do a complete renovation of the building, maybe it's worth it to remove the stucco and bring out the beautiful brick that's underneath. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you're getting, and you're not certain it's going to be approved as a contributing building, even if you do the work. And so for us, at least right now, probably not going to make an effort to do so.
Yeah, and also, I wanted to hit on the part 2 that you kind of talked about, that Jonathan's helping us with, like, and making sure that building matches the era. Like that's challenging in itself, right? Like finding all the materials and coming up with that scope of work and making sure that everything is there in place that's going to be approved prior to starting the construction is a big piece of that, right?
Yeah, it's huge. And so you can see the costs, that you incur. So I'll give you some examples, right? Yeah. Going to do just a basic renovation on something where you're going to, either flip it or you're going to renovate it, and it's a value add component. And that the flooring, right? The LVL or LVT, whatever it is, in a typical, rehab in a home, you're using like 3-inch or 4-inch or 5-inch, right? So you're trying to get the maximum out with the least little bit of labor. Here, they require us to use like a 2-inch or a 3-inch. And so the cost is about double of what it is otherwise,
right.
The door panels, right? They want the door panels to look as historic as you can. And so that immediately eliminates, 75% of your options for doors.
Yeah.
Windows,
even like light fixtures and everything's gonna be way more expensive to get because it has to match that era.
Yep. And then the other challenge is like windows. Some of these buildings that requires custom windows, so obviously that's going to be 2-3 times as much.
Yeah, and I also want to highlight, just for consideration as people look into these strategies, there's also a time cost that's significant. Not only is it from the perspective of it's more expensive and you got to find the stuff, but if it has to be custom, there's time to that. The permitting is time to that. The part 1, part 2, just the acceptance process. That there's a substantial amount of time that doesn't happen overnight, and like you highlighted, Byron, in COVID, that's exacerbated, right? That could be 2 to 3 times longer. And so working those when you're doing the financials, I think we went into our current project and we were like, okay, best case scenario, 6 months, maybe. more than likely a year before we're cash flowing. So I think we all, just to make ourselves feel better, we settled at like the 9-month mark. We'd mark that up as success. But in my mind, I put a year. I was like, 12 months is my assumption. The money that is required to keep this thing going to that point. So it's something that to consider as well, that there's a substantial time cost that equals money as well. And you can't, there's no real way to skirt it, right? Unless you have a good team who's engaged, they know who to talk to. And again, it goes back to that relationship piece and the assessment on the front end. So just something to highlight.
Absolutely. The supply chain issues affected one of our projects. I mean, it cost us probably 4 months. So it's definitely out there. That's part of the reason we actually like to look at multi-use stuff where there's a commercial tenant on the first floor. At least you're getting some income coming in to help the carry. So yeah. So that's kind of a high level overview of the tax credit program, which is, I think, the biggest piece of this discussion. I did want to talk about one other program that we used on our first project, and that's this PACE program. So the PACE program is an energy and water conservation program. It's enacted at the federal level, and then at the state level, states can choose to opt into the program, and then the counties actually choose to opt in as well. So Colorado is a state that has opted into this PACE program, and this county down here, Fremont County, where we do business, opted in, at least for the time being, in the PACE program. So the way that works is, if you take a renovation project like this and you look at the scope of work and the materials used, if there is even a slight bit of energy efficient or water conservation efficiency improvement, there are lenders out there that will loan up to 40% of the after renovated value of the project, and they'll do it on a 20-year note right out the gate, right? And so, like, even right now, where lenders are kind of pulling back and they've got less appetite to help on the real estate side of the house, if you can find a lender that'll put half your project or just under half your project on a 20-year note right out the gate, and you're not having to service the debt until after the project is complete, that's a pretty powerful tool. And we use that on our first building. So maybe it's time to kind of walk through that first one, if you guys think that's
let's do it, man.
Okay, so the first project is, as I mentioned before, bought it from an acquaintance of ours. And so we actually bought it on an owner carry note. So we can talk about creative financing. The guy didn't want to incur this huge capital gain in year one. And so we ended up putting on a 5-year note with the intent to buy the note out once the project's complete. And so we did that transaction ourselves, bought the building for $300,000. We put 40 down and the remainder on a note at 5.5%.
Awesome.
20, yeah, that's great. 20-year amortization, and so that's how we got control of the building. And so the second piece was figuring out the rest of the capital stack. And so this is where it gets a little interesting, and this is again why this is probably not for everyone, is we actually had two different lenders on this. We did use the PACE program, and so we got a PACE loan for $800,000. And so all of the windows that we're putting in are energy efficient. We put solar panels on the roof. We put a new energy efficient roof in. All the appliances are energy efficient. So we're talking, we did a complete scrape, and now each one of these 9 units is going to be a brand new apartment, beautiful apartment in this beautiful brick building. Lots of LED lighting, right? Efficient HVAC, you name it, everything we could do to make it energy efficient. So that is kind of a state-of-the-art building. And then the other lender was the Colorado Historic Fund. And this is something we kind of stumbled into. It was really nice. We thought we'd have to get another bridge lender from just a commercial bank. But this Colorado Historic Fund actually loaned us $750,000 on a 3.5% interest note. 5-year, yeah, it's amazing. 5-year maturity and 20-year amortization. And so our monthly debt service between both of those is really, really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's beautiful. So we swept it. It was an 18-unit hotel. We just scraped it even to the studs, took the studs down, did some floor leveling, and then put in 9 apartments When you enter into the building itself, it still looks exactly like it did as you're walking up the staircase, right? So big grand entrance, and then the hallways are still the same. Use lots of natural lighting, and then the interior of the apartments are brand new. So at the end of the day, so 300,000 to purchase the property, which was only 40,000 down. There are some fees when you get into using the PACE loan and the historic fund, right? Just like any other kind of lender, there's fees that are associated with that. But at the end of the day, the overall project cost will be about 1.7 and then 300,000 purchase. So out of that 1.7, about 1.6 are what they call QREs, qualified rehabilitation expenses. And so out of the entire scope of work, there's just a few things that don't qualify for the reimbursement from the tax credits, but overall 1.6 million. And so we found a partner, we found an investor who's going to buy those tax credits from us. So we'll get roughly 700,000, maybe 800,000 in capital back from selling off those tax credits, at which point we'll reduce the note down. So we'll have a building where we owe, I think, 1.3. The after renovated value, if you use an income-based approach on the rents, is somewhere between 2.4 and 2.8. And that's now, right? Not considering kind of the raising rents and this and that.
And these are,
so I mean, you did okay on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it'll pencil really nice. We'll have a ton of equity and it'll be a cash producing asset and everything will be new. So I'm hoping there's little to no maintenance involved, right?
Are you doing long-term tenants or are you doing short-term?
We're doing a mix. We've found that in this area, but I think just generally, I think you guys know, Katie and I do lots of short-term stuff, but we found that if you furnish the units, in this case in particular, because it's brand new apartment, right? So we don't want people moving a bunch of furniture in and out, up and down the stairs, slamming the walls and this and that. But we found there's a real need for furnished shorter term and longer term tenants. So in this particular area, there's a lot of government workers, there's visiting nurses, there's students, given COVID and this migration to working from home, there's a lot of people that are moving to this area because there are all the outdoor activities. There's the fishing that David likes to do. There's the golf that I like to do. There's all the family stuff, right? The water parks and everything else. You've got the Royal Gorge. Rock climbing, biking. It's a really beautiful part of Colorado that's just now being discovered. And we're getting lots of interest in these units. There's also kind of this burgeoning little tech industry down there. And so I think it bodes well for not just this property, but the other ones that we'll talk about too.
Yeah, dude. That's pretty rad, man. So at the end of the day, like, you bought this on an owner finance note for 300 grand. You got, a ton of amazing commercial debt to finance the rehab, and then you're going to get like half of that back in tax credits sold. That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, it worked out really well. We did do a little private equity raise. So like I said, this is what we do on the legal side. So why not apply it here? So we did a little friends and family round, raise a little bit of cash. What's nice is from the sale of the tax credits, we're going to push back the preferred return. And then again, we'll have a cash flowing asset now in perpetuity or until we sell it. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and that's a really good point because no, you still have that debt, right? And it's a big rehab. And so you still have to pay that debt. So you've got to make sure that you're going to have the capital on hand to be able to pay that debt through that rehab period until you're getting tenants in and it's cash flowing. And you're able to sell those tax credits back at the end of the project.
Yep. You definitely want to have some additional capital in the kitty. So
yeah, that's awesome, man.
And I also love how it's there's plan A, plan B, plan C, right? It's a cash flowing asset. You've calculated in, but even if it wasn't for the tax credits, you're in for a total of about $2 million, and you have a cash flowing asset that is worth, even without them, 400K equity. That's a pretty good spot to be. So you have these different plans, the cash flow, keep the asset, sell it. And I think that's an important thing too, right? I think you still have to, despite how good of a deal you can get, and despite all the sexiness of this type of project, there's still risk, and there's still You still have to be conservative in the way you run your numbers. You still have to be diligent. And so I love how you highlighted that stuff as well, because we're talking about that on other properties that we partnered on. Hey, should we keep it? Should we sell it? And both are good options. And that's where you want to end with all these types of projects, which I think is a great place to be.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Give us another example of one of your deals.
Yep. So there's another one about a block and a half away from this one. So this is in Florence also. And, at this point, we'd spent about 2 years down here looking at these properties and other properties. And we noticed there was this Florence Hotel on Main Street. And again, beautiful brick building, big open area. I'd actually seen some historic pictures of when this was a very thriving property, but it had been an eyesore for the couple years before we purchased it. The landlord was kind of a slumlord, right? He was pushing all these people in these really small units. In one instance, there's a commercial kitchen, a commercial space. He was renting out the commercial kitchen as an apartment. He was renting out the bar as an apartment, and big dogs running around, kids riding around in bicycles in the lobby of the hotel. And it's like, here it is, Main Street, right? This should be the pearl of this town, and it's just dilapidated and just really not really ugly, to be honest with you. And so we identified it as an opportunity, right, to apply the same model. And we had spent 6-8 months trying to find the current owner, right? That's one of the challenges here, right? Even on the assessor site, sometimes it's difficult. Who owns this thing? And so it took us a while to find out who the actual owner is. And we reached out, made some overtures, hey, we're interested in this and that. And, he wasn't interested in talking to us initially. So we were just, intentional about following up every 2-3 months. And then ultimately, the owner passed away. And his son, who lived in Colorado Springs, which is, an hour and some change away, had no interest in this property because, dealing with tenants, right? Evicting tenants who either aren't paying rent or who are living in space that are really uninhabitable is difficult, right? So those are hard discussions to have. And at the end of the day, we had to evict the current tenants in there because it wasn't a habitable situation. So as a responsible landlord, you can't have tenants living in that space, right? It's unsafe. You have people smoking in the building, these animals running around, basements flooding. And so at the end of the day, we had to evict tenants so that we could actually start to do some of the renovation work on this one. So the same sort of thing, like I said, historic hotel. So a big, beautiful lobby.
And your wife Katie is really, really nice about evicting tenants, right?
She's a Wolverine, man. Honey. So especially when she tried to do it the nice way, right? Letter of the law and this and that, and these tenants are just up in arms, and she just wasn't having it. So yeah,
she got her Army 06 full-bird colonel on.
Yeah, that's actually a really funny story, man. But yeah, they held a little town hall in the lobby of this building, and she walks in. So she's 5'2" and some change maybe. And then this other gal that was working for us, she's a former Marine. She's about 6'1", right? And looks like this, Viking. And the two of them walk into the lobby, and these tenants are sitting on the stairs, and they're smoking, right? So in Colorado, you can't smoke indoors, right? So Katie asked them to kindly put their cigarette out, and they refused. And so now this town hall meeting begins. It gets a little bit contentious. And these same two women that refused to put their cigarette out were asking if they could have basically a stay on their eviction. And Katie just wasn't having it. It's like, you can't even be respectful enough to not smoke in the building, especially when I ask you to put it out, right? Why would I bother extending your lease, right? And these ladies, they were nasty. They were not very pleasant women. So, yeah. So
Stuff.
Yeah. So we ended up evicting them. They found other places in town, and we started the renovation here. But same sort of thing. The fellow who inherited this building from his dad, we bought it on an owner carry note. So we put 50 grand down, purchase price of 410. It's got, at the end of the day, it'll have 11 units. So the 4 units on the first floor, we're just renovating. We're going to renovate the lobby, make it nice. We're going to add a laundry room. And then the kitchen will be allocated to the commercial space. We'll find a good tenant there, or that'll be just a common area for the tenants to kind of stretch their legs and a little sense of community down there. And then on the second floor, we really left the interior the same, except there was a huge open space, a common space that wasn't being utilized. So we actually added an extra living room to 2 of the units. And so same thing at the end of the day, the overall renovation will be about 1.3, probably get about 600 grand back, buy down the bridge note, pay off the owner carry note. And again, same thing in terms of valuation. It's very similar. It's 2.4, 2.8, somewhere in there post renovation. So really,
what's the timeline on that? From start to assessed finish?
yeah. So this one, because we didn't have to scrape the walls or anything, we do have to do some floor leveling. I mean, these buildings settle a little bit, so we'll have to level the floors. And we'll be running, wire through plaster, which is a little bit involved. But at the end of the day, I think this one will be done by the end of the year. I think it's, when it's completely funded, prepped, and ready to go, it's maybe a 4-month job at most. We're going to upgrade electrical. We'll upgrade the HVAC, amongst other things, and then put real nice finishes on the lobby and in the units itself. So this one's right on Main Street. So you look at the corner units, just, beautiful trees and just small town America. And Florence is the antique capital of Colorado, for what that's worth.
Yeah, dude, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I think I think one of the main points that we wanted to show here is that there's so many different strategies in real estate, in business entrepreneurship, and like you've obviously, like you had to do a lot of research ahead of time, a lot of relationship building, connecting with people, asking questions, diving into laws and rules, and face-to-face conversations. And there's a lot to this, but once you've done all this work, this little niche strategy can be so lucrative, and not just from a money perspective, but from the city, and just creating value, for the people that live there, for the city itself, and making these really cool buildings into something usable again. It's really fun to see and interesting to learn about.
Yeah, the community is ecstatic about this hotel because, again, it's right there on Main Street, right? 2 doors down, you have the historic Rialto Theater. And so you have people, coming to this show space and whatnot. And in the past, they didn't even want to walk down the sidewalk because you have, these derelicts sitting outside drinking beer and what. I mean, it's just so at the end of the day, yeah, people are super, super appreciative. And then it's nice, to your point, Stu, we've been able to take some of these concepts and even help, like this Rialto Theater is a nonprofit. They don't have a way to make money, but they have a renovation need. And so I was able to help them write a grant application to get their building renovated using some of the same concepts. So it's pretty
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Super cool. So let's talk about our project.
Yeah.
So before we get into the financials, do you want to give a little kind of background on how you came across this one?
Yeah. Well, pure luck, honestly. David and I were down in the area. We had on our brain that we wanted to get just a single family house to purchase and own as our first kind of short-term rental Airbnb, kind of following suit from some of the stuff that you guys have been doing. And I think we were just walking down Main Street, right? Just to go grab a burger at a place kind of close by, and saw this kind of first. I mean, it wasn't really even like a big realtor style type for sale sign. It was just like a little corner for sale in the window. And then I looked at the address, kind of Googled it real fast, found it on LoopNet, and then immediately like reached out to you guys. I was like, guys, check this out. It just came on the market. Let's go look at it. And like, we called the agent that day, set it up for like 30 minutes. She was right down the road, and we went and walked it. Katie had happened to be down there looking at one of our other properties, and she was like, I'll be over. And so like, it was just like boom, 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 like just like that. Walked it, loved it, knew exactly what it was. It's the exact same model that you guys were already doing, and made an offer on it like that afternoon or the next morning.
Yeah, I think Same day, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it was awesome, man. Like just couldn't have happened really any better. So
Yeah. So this is, yeah, super cool building. Same sort of scenario. Two commercial tenants on the first floor. This is right on Main Street, Canyon City. Canyon City's put some money into kind of their downtown area. They've stretched out the sidewalks, so they've got nice wide sidewalks for pedestrian traffic. Canyon City was actually recognized in the last few years as one of these really um, opportunistic places for small business. They've got real great fiber optic network, so lots of bandwidth, on the tech side of the house. They have a real intentional tech startup presence right now. So they're actually starting to participate in Southern Colorado Tech Startup Week that kicks off September 13th, I think. And so the tenants that we're looking at for these little downtown areas, just like, those places in those certain neighborhoods in Denver where you can start to see where the change is taking place, right? You're starting to see the occasional Tesla, right? Or you have BMWs and Audis, and you got people on bikes zipping around. And so all the signs are there that you're looking for an up and coming community. And this particular property is super cool. On the second floor, again, I think it's been vacant for who knows how long, but the wainscoting, the wood finishes, beautiful. It's got a big, beautiful skylight, both right down the center of the residential area. And then in each room, there's some natural light and this and that. So same exact concept. It's on the National Historic Registry. We've got the same team working it. So we are super excited that you brought us into the deal, having found the property first. I don't know how you beat me to it, but
ah, yeah, man. Just
Well, and you make a good point, and this isn't all about, obviously investing is about having a return on your money and providing opportunities for others as well. But this building is gorgeous, and you go upstairs, and it's just been in disrepair for, like you said, who knows how long. And I'm super excited about the fact that once it's up and running, it's going to be a beautiful place for people to call home or short-term rental, to have amazing vacations. But it's just this, I mean, we were joking because there's like one toilet for, I think what's the original 17, 10, no, what is it? 18 rooms or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 16
16
rooms.
rooms. Yeah. So there's these 16 rooms that there's lots of rumors of what these rooms used to be used for, but then there's one toilet at the end of the hall, and you're just like, man, this could be, we're super blessed to find this place, right? Because it's a gem. It just needs some love. It needs some polish. And once we're done with it, we're super excited about what it's going to look like. But to your point, Byron, it's huge value add, right? Not from a money perspective, that too, but you're just changing this eyesore and this place that is in disrepair into something that people are going to have a lot of pride in and be able to enjoy, which is a really cool part of the process too. I mean, I'm super excited about, and I look forward to going down there and staying in some of these properties that we're doing, because I think it'll be fun to take the families, and it's such a cool area, and I think you can find this in a lot of different places if you have your eyes open. So I'm very glad we did, but I think it was a little different. Stu and I went and looked, and we immediately were like, "Hey guys, you want to jump on a deal?" And thank you. Within minutes, we described the building, and within minutes, Katie's like, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah.
And I think you came the next day, and it was done deal. So
was
it's awesome. But that's also the power of partnerships, right? That's the power of trust. That's the power of a team. We didn't call. You weren't like our third call. You were our one and only call, because we knew that we wanted to take this thing down and who we want to do it with. So I think there's, that putting that front end investment in the team and the individuals is going to pay dividends. Because now I'm sure if we went looking down there, went fishing and found a building, we just call you and be like, "Hey, dude, we got another one." I mean, how quickly would we close that deal? It'd be pretty quick.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What I'm loving about this too, though, is like we've got Crystal roped in, and she's looking at finishes. So she gets to, and this is what was really fun with Katie and I when we started investing together is, we're attorneys by trade, right? And so there is a little opportunity to get creative when it comes to problem solving or crafting deals, but like really creative, not so much. So for her, it was a huge outlet on the short-term rentals and the historic buildings, picking out finishes and whatnot. So it's really fun to have Crystal get involved and get a little creative with things. So it's like this, big team effort. I really enjoy that. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. She did a lot of research on the building and found out that some of it was used for mining, Like you said earlier, it's a mining town, and so she kind of came up with design that like each room is going to be named a different stone, with the color of each stone. And so we're going to do like tile background and finishes that, and lighting fixtures and stuff like that match the color of that stone. So she had a ton of fun with it, and it's going to be a cool project.
Yeah, I'm fired up. We'll definitely get some pictures and post those for sure, man. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Here's a funny little quirky story though about this building is there's a shared staircase between our side of the building and then an adjacent apartment, 2, 3, 4 units off to the right. And so I think it was our second trip that we were down there to go take some pictures and meet with the contractor. And Katie's walking upstairs with her clipboard, ready to go. And one of those two ladies from their previous Florence hotel comes walking down the stairs. I guess she lives in one of the other apartments.
The adjacent side.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Hilarious. She's like, "Rut-row, here comes trouble."
Said, "Pretty please don't buy our building."
That's hilarious.
It was like, "No, we're not buying yours. We're buying this one next door." So funny, man. She looked right at Katie, the Barracuda.
That's awesome.
Although I would love to buy that other one too. That'd be really cool if that one comes on the market.
Oh man, what a riot!
That's so funny.
Good stuff.
That's so
man.
funny.
Yeah, it was great. So yeah,
and one of the tenants on the bottom is a tattoo parlor. So Stu said he's going to get inked up. He's going to get like neck tattoos. So for those of you know Stu, he's gonna go the tattoo route, which I'm super excited about.
Probably not so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about tentative completion date is end of year, but we also, to David's point, we've got a little buffer there. We'll manage our expectations a little bit. But yeah, just a super fun opportunity, and it's a really cool area and a great opportunity to do this with you guys.
Absolutely, man. Well, dude, this has been fun. I mean, I think our listeners will get just some education out of this, right? Just learning a new strategy, understanding that it takes a team, it takes some education, and then it takes just getting out there and doing it and taking action. And we're a big proponent of taking action and doing stuff, and you learn lessons along the way. But at the end of the day, it's going to be good overall. So I appreciate you coming on, man. This is we always love talking to you, love learning from you, and being a partner with you. We'll try to get you back on again so we can match that record of being on Filling the Storehouse podcast.
Yeah. I'll come up with something new that you guys we need to talk.
You're gonna come up with a new niche strategy that we're gonna get in.
For sure. Can I do a shout out to my team real quick?
Dude, of course.
Yeah, so I always want to be super appreciative. Like we talked about, I mean, it takes a really good team. I've got a really good architect named Jonathan Sims. Domus Vitae is his architect firm, and he can do stuff nationwide. Guy's really, really good. We have 2 really good general contractors. One is Carmen Hayes with CJ Hayes Construction. She worked our first building that I was talking about, and she'll do the Florence Hotel. And then we have another teammate, Lori Register, is our general contractor on our project. And they're all great people, really fun working with them, just love making relationships. But if anybody that's listening to this wants to learn a little bit more, or they need somebody to help them take a look at a project, I'm a resource. I'm a member of the War Room. But you can reach out to me if you want to talk through a project. I'm happy to do that. And if you need some expertise, I can rope one of those other teammates in.
Well, and let's plug 3 Pillars Law while you're at it, because you guys do an amazing job on the legal side of everything that we do together. But also, you help a ton of other investors with all their legal paperwork. When it comes to raising money, all the SEC requirements that take place. There's a lot there that a lot of investors don't do, and you guys are super smart. Have a team of amazing lawyers, and can help out on that side too, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, we do a ton of syndication work in all kinds of different asset classes. So when I say syndication work, I'm talking about anytime you're taking money from passive investors, you certainly want to make sure that you're navigating the SEC requirements appropriately. And so we can help do that. Again, if you're somebody out there who's thinking about, using passive investor money or pooling money and this and that, just give us a buzz. Happy to talk through, where it's appropriate and where you may need to have some additional protections. And so that's just Three Pillars Law. Like I said, we're in Castle Rock, just south of Denver. If you want to reach out to me directly, it's my email address is Byron, BYRON at the number 3pillarslaw.com, or you can call the office. Thanks for the plug, Stu.
Yeah, dude. We'll put the links in the show notes to your team and our team for everyone there that if you want to reach out. So good stuff, man. David,
Awesome.
you have anything else smart to say or not so smart to say?
Always the latter or the former. I'm sorry.
Mm.
See, you said because I messed that up, but I guess it's the latter and the former. Hey, Byron, really appreciate your time, man. Appreciate you coming back on. And every time we talk, whether it's a podcast or we're just talking through investments and some of the projects we have going on, I learn a ton. And so I'm just so grateful for you and your willingness. You give a lot back to vets. You give a lot of this information just because you're an amazing dude. You and Katie give a ton of your time as a resource. So just thank you so much for the impact, excuse me, that you're making. And quite frankly, Stu and I just love doing business with you guys, right? It's fun. We enjoy the time together. And so we're looking forward to doing a bunch more deals together.
Let's do it. Fire it up. Thanks for that, you guys. Appreciate it.
I really like beating Byron in golf too.
Slow down.
Fun. That's a lot of fun. All right, guys and gals. Hey, reach out to Byron. Check out Three Pillars Law. And if this, strategy interests you, obviously he's a wealth of knowledge. Reach out to him. And share this episode. If this was interesting, screen share it. Tell somebody about Filling the Storehouse podcast. And reach out to us if you want to talk real estate, business, life, anything like that. And most important, go fill your storehouse.
Yeah, thanks, Byron. Thanks, friends. Go take some action.
See
ya.
Thanks for listening to Filling the Storehouse. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe and share it with someone you love. And if you really felt inspired, leave a 5-star review so we could continue to grow and help other Christian entrepreneurs fill their storehouse. If you're interested in creating financial freedom through real estate investing, be sure to check out our website at storehouse310turnkey.com. We'd love to serve you through our platform of building the kingdom. Just click on the contact link and we'll reply to you as soon as we can. Again, thanks so much for listening. Now go fill your storehouse and make it a great day.